I'm going to be going over the new requisitions today, and I have one here, and I'm going to walk through exactly the important parts that need to be filled out and what to put in and all that. Okay, so this is what the new requisitions look like. The top part is the same as the older requisition, so nothing has changed from this part. So up here in the patient information, the last name, first name, date of birth are the main things. Last name, first name, date of birth, and an address. Address is especially important if the patient is self-pay, but address as often as possible as well. Those are the main things that we need. If we don't have those, we can't process the sample. That's this top section. Right underneath that, you're going to see insurance information. So the main things that we need, again, like just the insurance name, name of the insurance. So don't just write Medicaid or Medicare, whatever. Like, make sure that you indicate the company, so Sunshine or Humana, whatever the company, as well as the ID number. Those two are the main two things that we need to be able to process the sample. And then if there's self-pay, there's a little box up here to indicate self-pay. Right underneath that, you're going to see diagnostic codes. This section has to be filled out with at least one diagnostic code for each patient. I had sent out a cheat sheet with some of the common ICD codes that are used, and most of the therapists should have access to these. Just one is necessary. You can put as many as the patient has, but only one is absolutely necessary. Right below that, you're going to see record point of care results. This section B does not apply to you because you don't do point of care testing. So section B, you could just cross out. You leave it blank, but I'm saying for your records, if you'd like to cross it out so you know that this section doesn't need to be filled out. If you look over onto the other side, up here you're going to see specimen information. The date collected, time collected, your initials, and then the specimen type, urine. Those are the important parts of right here. Below that, you're going to see patient prescribed medications. So these are just medications that the patient has prescribed. This is section A. Patient has prescribed. So if that patient has alprazolam prescribed, then you would put a little check in the box right here. This helps us identify if we were to find alprazolam in the urine sample, we're able to say these are results that match up with what we're supposed to be seeing. If you don't indicate that alprazolam is prescribed, when the results come back, it's going to show as an abnormal result because there's no way for us to know that that's a normal thing to be coming up in the urine sample. So as often as you can, make sure you fill out the medications. That being said, if they're not filled out, we still will process the sample. It's just that for your records to know when the results come back, for you to know that that's a normal result for it to come back positive for alprazolam or whatever drug they have prescribed. Right here, you're going to see non-POC testing options. These are the specimen validity and confirming positives. We've discussed this, and for the time being, all of these should be selected. So every time in section C, non-POC testing, this confirms the specimen validity and makes sure that the most sensitive and accurate testing are being applied to the sample. So right here in this section to be filled out. Below that, you're gonna see the drug classes. So this is one of the big main differences in the new requisition forms. Up until this point, tests didn't need to be selected for them to be applied to the sample. We're no longer doing it that way. Now, in order to apply these tests, they have to be selected. So they're organized by class. So opiates, synthetic opioids, stimulants, benzodiazepines, muscle relaxants, illicits plus THC, and all that based on your patient. So if you feel that I cannot direct you on what to test for. That's something that potentially you may need to come up with a protocol in the office, or however it is that your chrysalis office determines to do it, or maybe, you know, it has to be by a patient basis, individualized. So you're gonna have, if you know that your patient, let's say you've been treating that patient for a long time and you know that that patient's main issue is marijuana, you might want to choose illicit plus THC as the main panel to be tested, because that covers, you know, the majority of those drugs. If you know that person mainly has an issue with heroin or stimulants, then you would select number 1, number 2. Number 1 is opiates, number 2 is synthetic opioids, and then number 3 is stimulants. And then if you have a new patient and you don't know what they're on, you are always welcome to test all of them. You can select all the tests. You are always able to select all the tests. I wouldn't recommend doing it for every single patient, for every single sample. But as you feel that it's necessary, you are absolutely allowed to select all the tests. But it's very important that this section be filled out. If this section is not filled out, the sample will have to go on hold, and I'll have to send you an email with a correction form. And you'll have to indicate on that form what tests need to be applied. Because if this section isn't filled out, we don't know what you guys wanted the sample tested for. Like what metabolites and what classes of drugs. Below that, you're going to see physician authorization, medical necessity statement. You can select more than one here, but only one absolutely has to be selected. These are just describing what the medical necessity for doing these drug testing are. So most of them are very self-explanatory, but they're also general in that they kind of apply to many of your patients. So there's one that says confirmation for drugs prescribed but not detected. That would be indicated for medication monitoring if you wanted to make sure that your patient was taking the prescribed medications that they're supposed to be taking. Baseline testing best practices, that's for a urine drug testing program to make sure that medications being prescribed are being taken, as well as drugs that are not prescribed are not being taken. High-risk patient, that's for court-ordered or in a lawsuit. So those kinds of things that you would select here. You can select if more than one applies to your patient, go ahead and select more than one, but at least one must be selected. Again, in this section, this is the other big main new part of the new requisition forms. This section must be filled out with at least one box. If it is not filled out, again, the sample will have to go on hold and I'll have to get a correction form from you. In the physician's signature section, for the time being, don't worry about it and don't sign unless you are the referring physician. And then below that, you're gonna see patient signature and date. Try as often as possible to get your patient to sign this form. It's very beneficial for us, it's very helpful, and we will still process it without the signature, but if at all possible, as much as possible, please get the signature of your patients down here along with the date. Additionally, just in case you don't know this, up here, this is a label. This number comes off. It's a label that you can put on the sample cup itself. This label is the same number as this number down here. It's kind of like a barcode, and it connects that sample with this requisition form. You can still write the name and date of birth of the patient on the sample cup, but if you were to just put this label, that's enough as well to avoid any insufficient ID on the samples and all of that. But it's imperative that either this label or first name, last name, and date of birth is on the sample cup itself. If that is not present, if one of those is not present, we're gonna have to put the sample on hold and I'll have to email the collecting therapist for a statement confirming that that sample belongs to that patient. And I think that's it. More or less, almost everything is still the same. The two big parts that are different are the selection of the tests and the medical necessity. And then I guess that you have to select the non-POC options as well in the section B here. I've also sent out a training PDF as well as a cheat sheet that I kind of go into more detail, what are the most important parts and all that. If you have not received them, speak to the administration at your office and they should have them, and they can be disseminated to you. Thank you.